Hello, folks. When all the Harvey Weinstein scandal and who's that other guy, Kevin Spacey scandal and all this other stuff was going on, the sexual harassment stuff was going on, some people were writing to me saying, well, why don't you say something about that stuff? And I kind of didn't want to say anything about it because I've noticed when I was looking at Twitter and whatever, it doesn't matter what you say about this stuff, people seem to get upset. So, either if you don't say exactly the right thing that they think you should say, they'll be like, "Ah," they got the bats out for you. But in general, I think this is a good thing. Get the sexual predators out of there, make them behave. I think that's a good thing to do. The only thing that sort of worries me is you're getting people on the kind of, I don't know which side of the political spectrum they fall on, but you're getting people saying things like the Mike Pence rule is what we should go back to, or what we should follow. And for those of you who don't know who Mike Pence is, including a lot of Americans who might not know who Mike Pence is, he's the Vice President of the United States currently right now. And he has this rule in which he will not dine with a woman, nor will he attend an event where alcohol is served unless his wife is by his side. So, to keep him honest and make sure he doesn't do anything, right? And a lot of people are saying, well, everybody should do this, and workplaces should be segregated, and we should have men do men things and women do women things. And I think this is going to blow over. I think every time there's an event like this gets a lot of publicity, there's always these people who go way off the deep end. But in Buddhist terms, I think the Pence rule is kind of interesting because the Pence rule is a little bit like the rules that celibate Buddhist monks had in the early days of Buddhism and that some orders of Buddhism still maintain, which is that men and women are strictly separated in their practice, and the male monks and female monks may not touch each other. They can't even shake hands with each other. The male monks and female monks, nuns, can't shake hands with the opposite sex in any context. There are some orders that take it so far as to even forbid people from looking at members of the opposite sex. I should first point out that these rules only apply to celibate monks and nuns. This is not anything that was ever applied to the population in general in Buddhist countries. So it's not like making people wear a burqa or something like that. It's strictly for people who've taken monastic vows. The other thing is the Zen sect doesn't practice this, particularly in Dogen's style of Zen. Dogen was extremely critical of this kind of practice. I covered a lot of this in my book Don't Be a Jerk in a chapter titled Was Dogen the First Feminist? But I want to read to you a more standard version. This is the version by my teacher Gudo Wafu Nishijima and his student Mike Cross, and it comes from Book 1 of Shobo Genzo. The chapter is called Daihai Tokuzui, which is prostrating to that which has attained the marrow. Chapter 8 in Volume 1. And here on page 78 it says, furthermore, nowadays being the year 1240 and the place being Japan, extremely stupid people look at women without having corrected the prejudice that women are objects of sexual greed. Disciples of the Buddha must not be like this. If whatever may become the object of sexual greed is to be hated, do not all men deserve to be hated too? As regards the causes and conditions of becoming tainted, a woman can be the object, a man can be the object, what is neither man nor woman can be the object, and dreams and fantasies flower in space can also be the object. There are disciples of the Buddha who, as the two classes of lay people, have a husband or a wife. Even though they have a husband or wife, they are disciples of the Buddha, and so there are no other beings equal to them in the human world or in heaven above. Even in China, there was a stupid monk who made the following vow: through every life in every age, I shall never look at a woman. Upon what morality is this vow based? Is it based on secular morality? Is it based on the Buddha Dharma? Is it based on the morality of non-Buddhists? Or is it based on the morality of heavenly demons? What wrong is there in a woman? What virtue is there in a man? Among bad people, there are men who are bad people. Among good people, there are women who are good people. Wanting to hear the Dharma and wanting to get liberation never depend on whether we are a man or a woman. When they have yet to cut delusion, men and women alike have yet to cut delusion. When they cut delusion and experience the principle, there is nothing at all to choose between a man and a woman. Moreover, if a man has vowed never to look at a woman, must he discard women when vowing to save limitlessly many living beings? If he discards them, he is not a bodhisattva. How much less does he have the Buddha's compassion? So he goes on for a good bit longer denouncing this practice. And I think he was right. If Japanese monks 800 years ago could handle men and women dealing with each other, then certainly we can now. And I think the answer is not to this kind of separation. This seems to be the kind of go-to answer for a lot of people on the more radical ends of the spectrum, is to return to a kind of primitive segregation, either between sexes or between races, to have special dorms for people of color and special dorms for people of non-color. Next they'll be asking for special bathrooms for people of color and people of non-color. It's a ridiculous thing. We need to get beyond that. All I can say is we're living in a time where we're starting to experiment with something, and we're early days. I think we kind of forget that. We think it's 21st century, oh my God, it's the end of the world, or whatever. But I think in terms of human history, we are in the early days of this experiment, and we're going to get it right if we keep going. If we return to the older ways, the problem with the older ways is they didn't really work. That's why they were abandoned. So we're trying a new experiment. We're trying mixing people. This is especially interesting in Buddhism in the West right now. We have mixed monasteries. These generally didn't exist anywhere in Asia, although now they do, mostly I think because of this Western influence. So now there are places in Japan that are mixed sex, mixed gender monasteries, and they're doing all right. And there's places in America, there's a lot of places in America, a lot of places in Europe, a lot of places in Australia, and countries like that where they're also trying this experiment, and it's working out okay. There have been problems, there have been scandals, but there are fewer scandals than there are success stories. It's just that the scandals get a whole lot more press than the success stories. So there you go. That's my opinion. Didn't really say much about Weinstein and all the rest, but I don't really want to talk about those guys because them. If you want to contribute to my continued being able to do these vlogs, there's places down at the bottom linked below where you can contribute to my Patreon page or to PayPal. I promised Patreons I'm going to get on the stick with getting my Patreon page together and give you some special baubles and things you can have. I haven't figured out how to do that, so we're working on it. So thank you. See you next time. Bye.